Hey, it's Peter again. If you guys remembered my last video about Star Wars, you'll remember that I didn't quite like The Force Awakens as much as most other people. But that's because I had a lot of issue with the storytelling of the films, and a lot of it seemed to be retreading familiar ground. Well, watching it again, I had all those same problems, but then a little theory popped into my head which would solve them and get The Force Awakens to go from a 6 out of 10 film to me to a 9 out of 10 film, if this was revealed in the sequel. And going back to it, one of the reasons that most people have with this was that the main female character, Rey, was a bit of a Mary Sue. For those of you not in the know, Mary Sue is a term that came from Star Trek fan magazines, which was about a character who solved all issues too easily, who things came so naturally to, who is clearly more talented just naturally than everyone else around them, and who was never really in any real danger that they couldn't easily get themselves out of. So, is Rey a Mary Sue? And I didn't want to have to admit this, but I was thinking about it and went, yeah, she probably is. She picks up the Force naturally. She turns out to be as good with a lightsaber as a guy who's been practicing for half, maybe all his life. And she's really good with technology as well. She was able to fix the Millennium Falcon when Han Solo, a guy who's been flying that thing for decades, just didn't know how to do it. But then I thought about it and I went, you know what? There is another character from the prequels who had the same issue. I thought about it and I went, yeah. Anakin Skywalker. Now, think about it, right? This guy built C-3PO on a desert planet without any real proper training when he was a kid, so he knows good with technology. He was able to use the Force naturally in the pod races without even knowing that he was doing it in order to go and survive and not quite win them, but when the film showed, we finally saw him win one. And then he goes to the Jedi Council. They're like, oh, he's the chosen one. He's more powerful than Yoda. So he has all these things going for him that none of the other characters do, but we don't consider him a Mary Sue, or the male version of it, a Gary Sue. But that's because we all know that he's going to become Darth Vader. He's going to really, really mess up, burn off all his limbs and blow up planets later on. He really messes up. Now, going back with that, we don't know what's going to happen with Rey. We don't know if she's going to become evil or what. But all these connections, all these mirroring between films, and it hit me. All the issues that I had with The Force Awakens could be solved if Rey was revealed to be the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. She's good with electronics. She fixes the Falcon. She naturally is good with the Force. She does things that took, Luke and Ben Kenobi years to master. She just does that instantly. And to me, it makes sense. It also makes sense why Snoke wants her so badly, why people are after her. It would make sense why the Jedi Academy was attacked before the film, because they were going after her. So, I'm thinking about it, I'm going, how? How could she be so good? This explains it. This makes her the amazing Force user without her having to be Luke Skywalker's daughter. It also gives her a connection to Luke Skywalker without her having to be his daughter. Because at this point, I think if it's revealed that she is his daughter, it's too obvious. It's going to seem really anticlimactic to people. What people would not expect was that she was a reincarnation of Darth Vader. So it's not Luke Skywalker going, I am your father. It's him going to her going, no, in a past life, you were my father. You take the expectation, completely turn it on its head. The other great thing that it does is that it explains a plot hole I had with Kylo Ren. As we all know, in Star Wars, there are Force ghosts. They pop up and they give you pieces of advice and then they just go away. This is when people die, they become one with the Force, and give advice to those that they were close to in life. And we've seen that at the end of Return of the Jedi, Anakin comes back to wave at Luke. So when Kylo Ren wants to become Darth Vader and goes, oh, you know, my grandfather went to the dark side, I want to finish what he started. Well, at that point, Anakin Skywalker just might show up and go, whoa, 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 buddy, this is a bad idea. I went down this path, nothing but bad things. I had a deathbed conversion, now I'm good. Don't make my mistakes. But if Anakin Skywalker was reincarnated, he would no longer be a ghost, couldn't do that, and it would even let someone else like Snoke go and could pretend to be him through holograms, hallucinations, or just forced ventriloquism and go, no, I am Darth Vader, like you should follow in my footsteps. That solves that issue. And if you think about it, right, Star Wars is steeped in mythology. So, when Star Wars is going and taking a look at Western religions, they can also take a look at Eastern religions, and one of the biggest ones is reincarnation. Everything is connected, the Force is connected to all living things. That's canon. When you die and you lose your physical form, your Force powers, your Force energy, comes into a version of yourself and you become a Force ghost. Well, couldn't that energy just collect itself and go and be reincarnated? Couldn't it just go and connect to a person who's being born and come back to Earth and have latent memories of that person, but, you know, the strong same Force powers? That would also explain why the numbers of Jedi should be a bit lower than everyone else in the galaxy, because to be strong Jedi, get the Force energy back into a reincarnation, kind of recycle that. To me, that makes sense. And when they get reincarnated, they could also have glimpses of that past person's memories. If you remember the lightsaber scene when she touches it and gets a vision, that lightsaber's calling out to her. That goes back to the reincarnation myth of usually Buddhist mythology, where people find things that they have connections to for a past life. The other thing that you might notice is that when she has the ability to use the Force, it's after she's been exposed to it. The first real big one is when Kylo Ren tries to analyze her mind and force it out of her. No pun intended. She fights him, he goes, wow, you're strong with the Force. And then her exposure to the Force could reawaken latent memories. And all of a sudden, she just has this instinctive knowledge on how to use the mind trick and get Stormtrooper James Bond Daniel Craig to let her out. It would also explain why when she uses a lightsaber and is pulling it with the Force, she's able to grab it back to her and fight. And all of a sudden, she's fighting a guy who's had all this training where she doesn't. Latent Force memories. So we all know that Kylo Ren wants to be Darth Vader. He wants to go in that way. It would create a yin and yang thing where she used to be Darth Vader, but doesn't want to be. So now we have someone who doesn't want to be and does, and someone who used to be and doesn't want it anymore. And it creates a balance between them, that balance in the Force that they're looking for. But that's just the ideas that I came up with. I think that this theory, if it's true, I don't know if Disney would have the guts to go with this, would be unexpected, solve a lot of issues that the movie had plot-wise, and just be an unexpected twist that I think people would go through, which doesn't contradict anything we've seen so far in Star Wars. But that's my theory. What do you guys think? Do you think that my theory holds any water, where Rey is just a reincarnation of Anakin, and that's why they dropped her off at a desert planet because she had latent memories of a past life and she would know how to survive there? Or do you think that I'm completely wrong and just blowing smoke? Let us know. Please, if you like this, let us know in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, please favorite and subscribe. I'm Pete, and thanks for watching.